Hello, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina Shar, and my guest today is Jolijn Copier. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Irina. Good to see you. I'll put the sock aside.
That's okay. You can combine me and knitting. Well, I wanted to start with. I know, like usually people start with the fiber story and how you started and all that, but I want to start with your first book.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
how did you decide to write a book about berets? Like, why berets?
Here it is. Well, it just happened. I happened to be on a big fair in Holland with my daughter, and we were wearing our berets, like the Delft's blue one. And it got the attention of someone in Holland who has a big web shop, Joanne Luiken of Walhalla. And she said, "Do you have more of these?" "Yes, I have more of these." And she said, "You should meet with my publisher and show them." So I contacted her publisher, and from there it started.
How many berets did you have, like designs of the berets did you have at that point?
You don't want to know.
No, I do.
A lot. There are about 10 designs in the book, but I think I could write 2 or 3 more books about berets with all the designs, and not all of them ended up in the book, and not all of them were suitable for the book. So it was just berets that time, and then it got started.
When did your love affair with berets started? Like, what was your first design?
I think the Delft's blue one, and it developed from there. And what happens is I was in different bands and choirs for a few decades. And one of the bands was a folk band. And we sang all languages from over Europe in Swedish, Finnish, Bulgarian, Galician. And I always want to know exactly what I sing, because then you can put emotion in it.
Right.
Happens, one of my tasks in the band was to get the translation and the pronunciation right. And what you do then is you start looking on internet and you really dive into a culture. And then you find the most beautiful things about costumes and embroidery and knitting and the stories behind it. So it really developed from there. This one is called Tudora, and it's a Bulgarian motif. And I used the lyrics in the books as well. I have my Bonnie Swan, which is not in the book, but it obviously is from a song called Bonnie Swan. And
Right.
it's not my song, but it is a beautiful story behind it. So that happens, and you see all these beautiful motifs, and well, I turned them into patterns and into berets.
And so when did you start singing the folk songs and
Oh.
getting into the bands?
25 years ago. I had bands and choirs at the same time, and I was always lucky to have, I'm not a professional musician, but I was always lucky to have very talented people around me. And they were amateurs, but they were also professionals. And together we had a good band, not only the band itself, but the bond we had as well. Really good connection. And then you can make beautiful things together.
Were any of them also crafters?
They were not so much crafters, they were more musicians. I was the crafter in the band.
Right. And then you also play harp, right?
Yeah.
We're playing harp in the band?
A bit, mostly singing. And I have been neglecting my harps for the last 2 years a bit, but that is due because I live in Ireland now, and I am from Holland, and we moved last year. So it was quite a busy 2 years with emigrating. So I have neglected them very badly. Have to get back to it.
I notice from your Instagram pictures that you post a lot of pictures of like sunset and flowers and ocean and nature.
Yeah.
Was that helping you through immigration? Did you find your peace there? Like, did that make you feel like you belong?
Yes, we've been coming here for 20 years, the same location, and then it starts to feel like home. And we have the peace and quiet and the nature. So we came from a big city
Right.
to this. It's our own little retreat now.
That's wonderful. And do you feel like that inspires your knitting? Has that changed your knitting somehow?
It always inspired, because we are coming here for 20 years, and yeah, it's Ireland. So this one is in the book as well. It's the shamrock, my Irish shamrock beret. It's a bit in the lighting, but difficult. Yeah. These are in the books as well. I'm always interested in old folk stories and try to follow that. And yes, it is inspiring, and it is connected to my knitting.
Right. I also saw a pair of mitten that, you know, sort of resonated with my background. It's called Matryoshka.
Yeah. Oh.
So how did that came into play? How did you come up with that design?
Yeah, that's the Matryoshka. I have it here. I put it on. It has a Matryoshka, the Matryoshka dolls. And like in the real Matryoshkas, there's always a tiny hidden one. And she's here in the thumb.
Oh, that's so cute. I was wondering what's the secret. I couldn't figure it out from the pictures. I'm glad you said it.
So there's one Matryoshka, and the tiniest one is in the thumb, and there's a nice pattern on the inside as well.
How did you decide to knit that? Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
Music. It just happens. You dive into cultures, and then you see the beautiful patterns on costumes, and you find the Matryoshka dolls, and it just happens. And then it's like, can I turn it into a knitting pattern?
Right.
And then you try, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. You just try.
Right. And so you live in, like, you're spending your childhood and like your early adulthood in Netherlands.
Yeah.
How did you discover Shetland lace for yourself? At what point?
That's really both Monique's to blame. Yeah, I have to blame them. Through Joanne Luiken from Walhalla, I got connected with Monique Drave, and we instantly had a click. We are fiber sisters, fiber soul sisters, and we have so much fun together. If we are together, we are like two teenagers giggling all the time and having a laugh, and I really miss her. Right. And then through Monique Drave, I met Monique Boonstra. And then I got in touch with Shetland lace. Right. So from these things happen, and then you start with a simple shawl, and from there on, I try to make my own patterns, like the bijou over here. Yeah. And there's a bit of Shetland and Orenburg and Lapland, Estlandse lace in it. Yeah, I think that's typically me. Mixing up things, see what works together. So not only Shetland, but also other ethnical designs, and mixing them up together. Try to see if it works. That's what I really like. Picking out the beautiful things that are around and see if it works. Right. That's what I like.
And then recently you got into Haps, right?
The Haps, yeah. I'm addicted to Haps. They're so lovely, and I do really use them. I wear them. I use them as blankets, and I just love them.
Right, because they it's like a hug, basically. Like.
They're so practical. They're so practical. Like the asymmetrical. That's why it's called the A hap. It's a totally different style of hap with just one border. Right. And very wide wingspan, so it's easy to wrap around and to wear under a coat. And I just love Haps. I'm addicted to it, I confess.
Do you have like a favorite color combination when you like thinking of Haps?
This one, the green one. This is my favorite one. I'm always for green. Green is my favorite color.
Is that because of Ireland, or was that why you found Ireland so welcoming because it's green?
Maybe 40 shades of green, definitely.
I saw also on Instagram that you have this beautiful Christmas candle collection. When did you start collecting candles?
That happened when my children were very young. I had a very funny nan. She lived on a farm and she had a lot of farm animals there, and she did it. She collected candles. You had these beautiful figurine candles, and they were not allowed to burn them.
Right.
And I did that as a child. She had a tiny cottage and she had the biggest Christmas tree she could get. So everybody was complaining there was no room, and I just loved it. And when my children were young, I bought them tiny Christmas candles and didn't light them, didn't burn them. And so every year we would put them back into on shelves or in a closet, and we had a lot. And I started collecting them myself as well. So it's really a sport now to find new ones because they're not that much anymore.
And how many candles in your collection did you ever count them?
I think I got about 40, because when the children left, I gave them all to them. But with children, when they were at home, I think they were up about 200.
Right.
3 children collecting them as well, me collecting them. We all had about 40, 50 candles. And people were giving them to us as well because they know we collected them. So there were a lot. At least they are gone now.
Is Christmas your favorite holiday? Because I'm just getting the sense of, like, looking at your Instagram, I always get the sense that it's like your favorite holiday somehow.
Yes, I love getting together with the people we love. And we really missed that last year because of COVID. We emigrated during the COVID period. So it was just the two of us here.
Right.
And of course we can connect through WhatsApp and everything, but that's not the same. Right. That's not the same. So we are looking forward to a Christmas with friends and children and this year.
So are you gonna make again like 140 gingerbread cookies, or how many ever there was?
Yeah, we had to eat them all now ourselves. We might do that again, and I hope they will hear, or we are over in Holland, or maybe we just send them, because I bake a lot of gingerbread cookies every year.
How do you decide on design for them?
Just decorate them, and I'm not really particularly good at it. I'm a very impatient girl, but it has to be done quick.
So no fine Shetland lace on the gingerbread.
No.
How do you explain the fact that you think yourself impatient, and yet you create all these beautiful things which require a ton of patience?
I've always been impatient as a little girl. When I started knitting at the age of 6, learned at school, I hated it because it took such a long time to make a tiny scarf, and I liked crochet a lot more because that was quicker.
Right.
And maybe that's the reason why I make a lot of little things like mittens and berets and hats, and because it's small items. You're done very quickly then.
Right.
But I became more patient over the years, like with the shawls now and the sweaters and everything. But I'm still a bit impatient, yeah.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I was interviewing Hazel Tyndall and I asked her if she has like favorite kind of project, she said like, I like bigger things. I like sweaters, like jumpers, just because I don't have to think of what's next. I don't have to pick colors for the next thing. And you are complete opposite. You like the small things. Do you find it difficult to come up with the idea of what's next?
No, there's always something. Last year, because there's always something new to learn in knitting. What's so funny about knitting. You're never done. There's always something new. And last year I got a book for my birthday of Lucy Hake with the Celtic cables. So one of the new designs is a mitten
Oh,
with
that's
a
so beautiful.
line.
Love that.
So, and the mittens are finished, but the pattern isn't.
When you write patterns, right? Like what part of the design? So you come up with the idea for the design, you swatch, you knit, you finesse it, and then you write a pattern and you publish.
Broke it 4 times before and read it again.
What's your least favorite part of the designing?
The least favorite part? That would be putting it in a pattern that is acceptable for someone else to knit it. Because something that is very clear to me may not be clear to someone else. Right. So where do you start? So do you put advanced on it because you want to know that someone is acquainted with knitting cables, or do you start explaining how to knit cables? That is really difficult because they look really nice, but they are not for a beginner.
Right.
And sometimes you get a complaint that you don't explain how to cast on, how to cast off, how to do this or that, because that is difficult for someone who writes patterns. Where do you start with the pattern? If I had to explain everything, then a pattern would be really, really long. That's why you put that it is for advanced knitters, or that it is for a beginner.
Right.
Like Natasha, my cousin, she said, "Can you make me a hat?" And I said, "You know how to knit, so why don't you give it a try?" She said, "Oh, I can't do that. It's too difficult." But do it step by step. And I wrote the pattern, Natasha's half hat, especially for her, step by step. Well, you've seen the result.
Right.
It was on the cover of Knitters Gonna Knit, and she was so proud. That was such.
I honestly couldn't believe that it was somebody's first hat. Like, it was unbelievable because it's like the complexity of it, and you think it's like this is the advanced knitter.
Yeah, so I wrote that pattern specially for her because she is a beginner, and we had a lot of contact over the process.
Right.
But that was really fun. But you can't do it with an intricate pattern that's more advanced, and you expect the knitter to know how to cast on and how to do Fair Eye, or how to do Shetland lace, or how to do cables. You expect that the knowledge is there already. Right. That's why it's an advanced pattern, but it is difficult sometimes.
No, I see it all the time with designers, because you don't want to scare off a large population of knitters by saying it's advanced, because there is some advanced beginners, or not advanced, adventurous beginners, who might be totally able to knit any pattern, if they just put their mind to it. And so you don't want to scare off those people by saying it's advanced pattern.
Yeah, and some people like to be challenged.
Right.
So who am I to decide that you cannot knit that?
Right.
But it is sometimes difficult with writing a pattern. Yes.
Right. Do you ever get creative block? Do you ever sort of lose yourself and don't know what to design next, like have no ideas, or is it always like easy flowing and ideas come faster than you can write them down?
That happens to everybody. You just lose your knitting mojo and just wait, sit quiet in the corner until it comes back.
Well, do you sit quietly in the corner, or do you do something that would like sort of bring it back somehow?
Different things. I lost it for a couple of years, and then I started quilting and origami, and there were a few decades in Holland where that every local yarn shop was disappearing. You couldn't get yarn that easily, and there was no web shop available at that time. Right. And I started doing other things, and when knitting came back, I just picked it up again and started from there. So every now and then, yes, you lose your inspiration, and I just do something else. I always have to do something.
Is there like ever a day when you don't do anything creative at all?
No, then I'm sick. Then I'm really sick.
It's so funny because Monique told me the same thing. Like Monique Drape, when I asked her, is there like a day when you don't need to do anything? She's like, somebody better call the paramedics, you know?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. The same with me. Then if I don't knit, if I don't create something, then I'm sick. Then I'm really sick. And even then, even then, it keeps me sane. It keeps me well. It's there's always something going on in the mind, and what's next, and what can I do? And even if it is a plain simple sock, there's always something on the needles, always something going on.
Right. What do you do with the knitted items that you create? What happens to them? Do you sell them? Do you gift everything?
Well, what you do with 60 berets, you look like Dobby of the Harry Potter story. Or I wear it, and I gift it to people who really appreciate it. I have what we call back in our family the lollige sokken club, and
What does that mean?
It's translated like the funny sock club. Whether you like it or not, you're gonna get socks for your birthday in the most horrible colors. And it started as a fun, and my God, what to do with socks that are knitted in green and orange and purple stripes. But then the next year you ask, what do you want for your birthday? Can I please have another pair of socks? Oh, so there are quite a few friends and family who have funny socks.
Well, talking of funny socks, so you have this pattern called Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
That's actually free on Ravelry, right?
Yeah.
How did you come up with that design, and why is it free? Because it's like such an amazing pattern. Why did you decide to do it free?
It is, and it is for free. It is because I did not invent socks, and I did not invent how to knit a heel or a toe. And it's like with a hap, I didn't invent it. It's been there for decades, and that's why it is for free. Why should I say it's my design when there are so many socks, and there's so many beautiful socks with intricate patterns, and that's a design. I don't see this as a design because knitting stripes, that's the easiest things, isn't it? And well, and it's just for fun, and it is for it is for Christmas. And there were so many people downloading it and knitting these socks, and I had so much pleasure seeing that people from all over the world were knitting these socks. And there was even someone who had a sock competition at her work, and she
that's amazing.
She put them and she won. That's the biggest prize I can get, that people have fun with it and wear them and gift it to other people who don't knit. And well, that's the spirit of Christmas, isn't it?
Right. Is it like an ultimate high to see people knitting your designs?
Yes. To me, it comes naturally to make the designs. And sometimes I don't have to think about it. It's just there. And when people buy my designs, it feels special. It still feels special. After 3 books, after so many designs, it still feels special that people want it and wanted to knit it. And with some I can understand, because I have the Dutch Canal Houses hat. And
I love that hat. I love that hat. It's so beautiful.
That's in Canada and America. And people get back to you, say, oh, I had such a lovely holiday in Amsterdam, or my parents were from Holland and it reminds them of home. And people who were emigrated, just like I did last year, and people who emigrated back decades, and they like that design because it is in Delft blue and it is in Dutch, but it always pleases me when people buy a pattern and are pleased with it.
Right.
It is special. Yes, it's never. I never take it for granted that people want to knit my designs. But there are so many designs going on internet, and so yes, it is special.
Do you ever feel like there is a big competition for designers out there, or do you feel like there is room for everybody?
There is room for everybody. Because not everybody likes Fair Isle and not everybody likes Shetland lace or knitting cables. So yes, there is room for everybody. And of course, with Ravelry, the last years, you see more and more coming up, and sometimes it looks like something that was already there. But yes, there is room for everybody, because it's not to everybody's liking what I do.
Right.
And that's okay. That's okay.
Do you feel like you've met a lot of friends through knitting?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And whenever we are on holiday, we look up where the local yarn shops are, and you always have a nice conversation. And well, my very dear friend Monique Drave, she's really is my twin sister, my fiber
Right.
twin sister. And that's all because of knitting, all because I wore a beret on a big fair over 10 years ago and never expected that that would happen, that I would meet these lovely people who I really am connected with. And that is so, that's really warming.
And how did Instagram play into that?
Yeah, you can reach more people. And people get back to you, and they follow you and I follow them. And well, that's how we got acquainted, didn't we?
Right.
And that's so fun. It's a world out there. And from America to New Zealand and Europe and everything in between, you get connected with each other. You get to meet people, and you see fiber artists, weaving, spinning, dyeing, and it's like one big happy family.
Do you get inspired by what you see on Instagram? Do you ever get like ideas just from Instagram posts?
Yeah, of course you do. Like the colors, like ideas, or yes, of course.
And talking of colors, is that easy for you, or is that like, because I tell you the truth, like I recently got into Fair Isle, like just over COVID, basically. I never done it before. And I don't even have problem with floats. Like a lot of people have problem with tension. Somehow it came pretty natural to me. Like I don't have that much of an issue. Like it sort of happened. But to pick colors is not easy for me at all. Like I'm really tormented about like what to choose, because I don't want to repeat the same colors that's in the design. Like I want to
No,
try to do something different, but like
yeah,
to come up with those is really
to
whole.
come up with colors. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I must confess, this is Molly, and it's a Fair Isle.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Just try, swatch, take your crayons and draw it on paper. Take little scraps of yarn and put them together. See if it works. And sometimes you'll be surprised about what colors do, because there's a sweater called Muriel, and I saw that on a TV series a few years ago on the BBC about Chester Zoo, and the person in that playing Muriel was wearing this sweater. So I recreated it.
Oh, that's so pretty.
And in the same color she was wearing. And then a colleague of mine at that time, being an architect, said, do it in a brick color with bright blue. And I thought, my God, that's not going to work. But it does work.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It does work. So yes, people do inspire me about colors. But look at nature. Look at nature. Take pictures of flowers and see what combinations are there. And if you put them together, you can't go wrong.
Right. That's funny that you mentioned that, because every time I see sunset, I'm like, that would make a perfect sweater or that would make a perfect shawl. Like I look at things around me and I think in terms of knitting, you know?
Yeah, exactly. The same here. So sometimes you don't have to make it up. Just look around you and look what works. And that can be sometimes not in your color pattern, but then it still works. Everybody has a favorite color, and mine is green. But yeah, blue works as well.
Right. Ah, yeah, definitely works.
Yeah.
Just because it's my favorite color.
I know.
I also noticed that you love, besides baking gingerbread cookies, you like baking breads, and you do this Irish soda bread, and then you
Yeah.
like seafood, it seems like, because there's always like seafood chowder and salmon this and salmon that. It's like,
Yeah.
do you feel like cooking is also your creative outlet? Like, do you feel like it's also part of the same creative personality?
It is part of the same process. I like good, healthy food. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a veganist, but I do eat vegan, and sometimes veganist is without meat, but I like to do it from scratch. So I know what's in it. And it's like knitting, do it from scratch. So you know what's there. And that's with the cooking as well. And I love good food.
Well, you know
And
how
I
you
love,
said that like you read all these folk tales and you get inspired by different cultures for the knitting. Does that happen with you with the food as well? Do you like
yeah,
try different recipes from different countries from
yeah, yeah. And it happened because, of course, we're in Ireland, so you start to get an interest in Irish food. And with Irish food, I feel it is honest. There's nothing fancy about it, but it is good, honest, healthy, and it's warming, and it really fills you up. And that's what I love. I think I'm with my knitting. It's very practical. You must use it. It must be wearable, and it must be durable. And that's what I feel with Irish cooking as well. Like the soda bread, the humble soda bread. It's done within 10 minutes, and it's baked within an hour, and you have a good, healthy, warm bread. What else do you want? Just a bit of butter on it and a bit of marmalade, and you're done.
right? Would you share a recipe?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I would.
It's so funny because like I always ask, like I feel like I'm always harassing knitters for recipes, but that's how like I get inspired in cooking, because I meet all these people from different parts of the world and I see
Yeah.
on their Instagram some posts and I'm like, that looks really delicious. So half of the time somehow I find myself talking about like mixed drinks or cooking, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that happens a lot with knitters, with people who are creative in one way or another way. It's what connects them.
Right. And
And
so you mentioned that you did quilting also. Do you still do quilting?
not that much anymore. There's still one in the back that's been there for 5-6 years because of all the knitting that's going on lately,
Right.
the late decade. But it's there. It's there. And I took it along. This is one, and there are more around the house, and it's there. And that's what always comforts me with knitting, with quilting. It's there.
Right.
Whenever I go on the road, there's always some knitting in my bag. And even if I don't pick it up that day, it is there with me. And that comforts me. And that keeps me quiet, sane. Sometimes I just have to have it around.
Right.
And so my husband sometimes complains there are a lot of projects going on here. Yes, it's almost in every corner.
Did he complain like when you were packing for Ireland? Did he realize how much stuff is coming that's knitting related or project related with you?
Well, he's a benefits it as well, because he has cardigans and vests made specially for him.
Right.
So, and he loves that. He really loves that, because he say, "Oh, I want a bit of longer sleeve, or a bit higher collar, or a bit lower. Could you make it a bit longer here and there?" And he benefits. He loves the socks. He loves the mittens, and like the mittens I made last winter. That was the first project with trying out Celtic cables, and they have knitting inside as well. So
that looks really warm.
They're nice and warm. So he benefits, so he's okay with it.
Were you surprised when you were packing how much stuff you have that's knitting related?
Well, yes. We moved to a house that's half the size of what we had. So we have to put away a lot of stuff. And we gave it to the recycling shops. And so we had to make choices, really had to make choices, what comes along and what doesn't. And then it turns out that the most that came along was handmade, and it was made by me, because that is where it has history. I love old furniture, and I love to do reupholstery, and all the chairs that came along, I reupholstered them myself. All the lights and the shades that we have are made by ourselves, and we really had to make choices about what is coming along and what is not coming along. And the most stuff we put away was stuff that we bought and that was ready. And we only took along what we really cared for. So sometimes it's good to reconsider what you really care for.
Right. I mean, honestly, like, because I moved so many times in my life, I find that very true, just because you like really pick what's most important to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You sort of reevaluate it.
What has history and what has meaning to you? Like that old little pottery thing I have that belongs to my nan that I got from her. And that's what you care about. And that's what you take along on your journey to life. And yeah.
Do you have one of your earliest or a most cherished knitting project?
Oh my God, no. I started designing when in my teen years. I used to sport a lot. Gymnastics, swimming. I was in the swimming pool the whole day, worked there for a couple of years. And the easiest thing was to take a sweater and put it on, and that's it. And I designed these all myself, and I didn't call it designing then. I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and I just knitted them, and I just used them, and they ended up worn out, and you just put it away, and like it's gone, knit a new one. So yes, afterwards you realize, my God, I did it when I was 14, 15, but I didn't call it designing then. It was just knitting.
And the picture taking wasn't as popular, so you probably don't even have most of it on pictures.
No, it was just there. It just was part of my clothes, and you didn't particularly thought it was fancy or trendy or whatever. I just knitted it and worn it, and it's worn out, and just throw it away, make another one.
Right. So you mentioned that you learned to knit in school, or you knitted in school. Did your mom knit? Did your grandparents knit? Like, was it part of the family culture?
Yeah, my mom knit, and my nan knit, and lots of aunts knitted, but they didn't teach me. I learned at school, and because it was very normal for my kind of generation to learn it at school. And like I said, I really hated it because it was so slow. Steel needles and horrible yarn and squeaking and making it too tight. And I like to crochet a lot more because it was a lot quicker.
Do you crochet now?
No, because over the years, with the coming of internet, and because of the music I made, diving into different cultures, and you see how they knit on Shetland. Hey, that's differently than I do it. Can I do that as well? And you start to practice with very easy things, because when I do crochet, I have the yarn over my left finger. And with knitting, I was a thrower over the right. And hey, with Farrell, you can do both at the same. Ooh, and then you start, this is quicker, this is nicer. And then you start to develop it from there. And I did a lot of demonstrations on fairs, like people said, oh, that's too difficult. And then I say, have you learned how to crochet? Yes. And where's the yarn then? Well, over the left. Well, that's the same. It's the same motion I do with my knitting, with the yarn over the left. And then people say, oh my God, that's it.
Right.
And give it a try, and always give the knitting to them. Try it and do it for 10 minutes every day, put it aside, and within a week, you're okay with it.
Right. No, it's funny because it's like it goes back to what you said about designs, that if you break it into small parts and it all becomes very manageable. Like if you approach knitting the same way, like this is how I got into Shetland lace, because I was like, okay, I know the knit stitch, I know how to do yarn over, I know knit two together, so I guess I can do this. And I just jumped into it and boom, I was like knitting Shetland lace, you know.
It's one stitch at a time.
Right. Right.
And it's all knit, purl, and yarn overs and knitting stitches together. So if you break it up like that,
right,
everyone can learn it.
So what's in the works? What's your near or far future plans? What are you doing now?
Writing the patterns out. There's an order coming from Monique Drave, so I can knit the Ahab again, and then write a pattern out. So that's in a testing trial. The same for the mittens with the Celtic motifs on it. And I want to make a hat with it as well. So that's always what I like, to have a set, to have the mittens and the hat, so you can make a set. So that's on that's what I'm going to do next winter. and get back to my harps.
I'd love to hear you play one day. Maybe you can record your little, IGTV.
Well, who knows? Who knows? Woolen will be organized next year.
I'm coming there. I was supposed to be there last year, but it got canceled. Yeah.
With Monique Drave, and well, she will come over here. And we live in one of the cottages of a really old Coast Guard station. So plenty of room here. We could have a nice knitting retreat.
That's what she was saying. She was like, we should organize a knitting retreat there before
it's nice and quiet here at the open space and fresh air and the ocean nearby and a lovely village nearby. And
you could even teach us how to make soda bread.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And ginger cookies and seafood salad. Or we can all tuck in then, and yeah.
That sounds like a lovely plan.
That's a good plan, it is. It would be lovely to see everybody and to meet you in real life. And yeah, definitely.
I'd love that. Well, thank you so very much for being my guest today. I loved getting to know you a little bit better, and hopefully we'll see each other at Woolen next year.
I definitely hope so. And thank you very much for having me, Irina.
Thank you.